Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of RE/MAX Lakes. And good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Here we are.
And, last week we were talking about the positives and the negatives. Well, we were trying to get to the negatives of home ownership. But you and I, we just get into conversations.
Right.
And so we don't always finish the topics that we're on. So this is like part two of a two-part series.
Two-part of a two-part, which
Yes.
could turn to a three-part.
It could be a three-part.
You never know how far we get today.
That's right. So the positives.
Roger shaking his head.
Yeah, right. He's our timer. So positives and negatives of home ownership, and I think you want to start off with some of the negatives.
Yeah, let's talk about the negatives, detractors. I got to put that positive spin on it.
And
but
most
potential
real estate
pitfalls,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We're optimists.
Yeah.
We're not. We don't want to
Exactly.
be negatives. We want to be optimists.
Yeah.
But ultimately, for a lot of folks, the cost of buying a home, if you're doing FHA, if you're doing conventional, any of those, there's cost associated, and those. You're paying those costs up front. Now, again, there's ways around it. We try to negotiate with the seller to pay closing costs, those kind of things. But potentially, there are high upfront costs. Mm-hmm. So if you pay out of pocket for your closing cost, if you pay for a survey, if you pay for home warranty, your insurances, all of those things, it could be a pretty good chunk of change for down payment and all those things when you get ready to go to closing. So the bottom line is, you don't want to do that and then a year later all of a sudden turn around and sell the house. It takes, in general, about 5 years to recover those costs. Now, again, if you're renting, that's a sunk cost. That's an accounting, a business term. It's gone. Once you've paid it, it's sunk, it's gone out of there. But if you're investing in that house, the upside is that they appreciate in value. See where I switch from negative to positive? I just can't help myself.
That's good. Yeah,
but
good.
So on the negative side, though, is those upfront costs. So for a lot of people, that's going to be the detractor to get to purchase it.
A lot of people that are renting, they don't think that they can afford that that cost because they don't know how big or small that cost is going to be.
Right.
But you have to do the investigation because there are a lot of programs out there for first-time home buyers that they reduce those costs or help find a way to get you into that property.
And they don't even have to be first-time home buyers. That is kind of a misconception for a lot of people. Hey, are there any first-time home buyer programs out there? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, but there are 100% financing programs. So I think that distinction's important.
Sure.
USDA and VA are both 100% financing. You can finance 100% of the purchase price of that home.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of factors that relate to that, and we'll talk about them in a later show.
Sure.
But I guess the other concern that people have is, I buy this house, what if it goes down? What if the values go down? And especially for folks that are buying today, and you hear me saying this, you're buying at a premium.
You are.
You are. There is no doubt. When you've got supply, demand in the way that it is right now, a lot of demand, no supply, prices are going to be high. But again, this is a long-term investment. This is not a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day.
Right.
You need to be thinking longer term. And again, whether it's closing costs or what's my why am I buying a house, needs to be longer term. The potential for depreciation is not that significant. Now, I say that, we have seen some hiccups. 2007, 2008, we saw some hiccups. Values changed dramatically. But in general, in our local real estate market, prices appreciate in value. Pre-crash, they were running, when I say crash, 2008, they were anywhere from 3 to 4% appreciation per year. The last 3 years, what have we seen? 6 to 10. I mean, depends on where you're at, but 6 to 10% appreciation. So you take that short window of time, 2 years, or maybe 3, 2007, 8, and 9, and that's all we've seen over the last 100 and some years. So the percentages say houses will appreciate in value. They're unlikely to depreciate.
Yeah.
Okay? So depreciation is one of the negatives. The last thing I'd like to talk about is illiquidity. Well, wow, that's a big technical sounding term.
Yeah.
All it means is you've got your money tied up in a house, right? You've got your money tied up. It isn't like you can take and spend that.
Right.
It's harder to pull that out. Now, there are programs. You can do a home equity line, right? You can take the equity of your house and go borrow if you need to get that cash out.
Sure.
But when you buy that house, you're committing. I'm purchasing, and the whole objective is to pay that principal balance down and increase your equity in the home. But essentially, it's illiquid right now. You can get an equity line, you can pull it out, but there's costs typically associated with that. But there's always programs. There's always a way. And my experience has been, you buy something that's affordable, which is why we do pre-approvals, which is why we've got a lender involved. Nobody wants to see you fail. And when I say fail as it relates to a house, that means have to go into foreclosure or sell it at a discount. We don't want to see that happen.
No.
So there's always a way. There's always a way to do that. So while, being illiquid or having things tied into your house is a potential drawback, the upside is the equity that you're gaining long term. And we'll talk about the other benefits, I guess. We come back after the break. I'm done with the negatives.
Yeah, we're
the
done
detractors. We're going to only the good stuff.
We even turned some of the negatives into positives. That's right. Okay. More positives coming up right after this. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of RE/MAX Lakes. And we've been talking about the negatives and the positives of home ownership. And we went through the negatives already. Now we got just the positives.
Let's talk about the positives. So buying right now, yes, there's high demand, there's not a lot of supply, but the benefits to you as a homeowner are you're fixing in a very low interest rate.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
If you're purchasing today, you're buying with a very low interest rate, historical lows. And I pulled up a study, and we've talked about the 80s. But put this into perspective. The average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rate in 1984 was 13.88%.
I remember those days.
13.88% for a mortgage rate.
Yeah.
In 2014,
sounds more like a credit card, but
yeah. In 14, it was 4.17, and people think 4%'s high. Now we're seeing threes. I'm seeing 30-year fixed mortgages closing at 2.875, 2.75. Again, there's a lot of factors that go into that rate, but the reality is low interest rates, if you were to buy today, you're definitely setting yourself up long term.
Yeah.
Long term, you're at a fixed 30-year rate. That interest rate's not going to change. So you've established a fixed cost for what your home is going to cost you year over year, at least your mortgage part of your home.
Yeah, and we were just talking about this. What have rents done here lately? Rents have been going up.
Right.
Because property values have been going up consistently over the past several years. And so that being said, so rents have been going up. And, and we're not saying that, landlords are greedy but there's a lot of factors.
They're adapting to the market.
They're adapting to the market. Materials, because you do have when one renter leaves, and then you have to pay to have somebody come in, paint, redo the apartment, what have you. So materials are more expensive. So like you said, they're adapting to the market, but rents have been going up here pretty consistently. And so, that being said, like you said, you're locking in that rate. You know what your payment is going to be.
Which the technical term about what you just talked about is essentially you're hedging against inflation.
Oh, wow.
By tying in that fixed mortgage rate, by fixing your cost of living as far as owning the home, again, with all the other things that come along with it, insurances could go up, taxes could go up, but your mortgage portion of that is fixed. If you're renting, you have no control over what happens. I've seen condo associations, there's all of a sudden there's a special assessment because they hadn't collected enough in dues. Now they need to put a new roof on all of the condos in the complex. Guess what? Everybody pays. That's what being part of a condominium association is. So ownership is a hedge against inflation. As we talked about last week, you're saving some money on taxes. Your property taxes are deductible. The mortgage interest is deductible.
Yes.
All benefits to owning a home. I mentioned even when we were spinning the negatives, building equity, right? You might be illiquid, but you're building equity in that property. What does equity mean? You paid $150,000 for it. You put $50,000 down. I'm just using random numbers to get to an easy way to look at this thing.
Right.
Your principal balance is now $100,000. Well, every month when you pay on that principal balance, you know, you take $1,000 a month off. The next month you've got that now. The equity is the difference between what it would sell for and what your principal balance is. That changes pretty dramatically, especially when home prices are appreciating. So you're gaining equity in the home as you own it.
Yeah, so like I bought my first house for $82,000 in 1997. And then about 3 days later, after buying it, I was like scared. Did I overspend?
Right.
Did I, so I'm nervous
Right.
about it.
Yes.
But like you said, I had the locked-in monthly mortgage amount.
Right.
And at first, it was kind of hard to make that payment. But
Yes.
as the years went by, it became easier and easier. And when I got to the end of the tunnel, it's like I was making double payments by that time.
Right.
And so I paid it off. It was in 2013. I paid it off. But then I knew I had that much, and I bought it for 82, sold it for 125. But I had 125 basically to put down on my next house.
Correct.
And so you're building that equity, that stability. I mean, everything that we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
I mean, I experienced it, and it is so true. You're building that wealth. To be able to to as a stepping stone to get to that next or I could have stayed in that property.
You could have.
You
could have, and then you've got your house was paid off. And think of all the free cash flow you've got
right
now.
Yeah.
Right? Because what is the single largest investment most people make?
Your
What
home.
is the single largest monthly bill that most people have?
Yeah, your home.
It's
right.
the cost of your home.
Yeah.
So I get that, but it's sort of a forced savings plan.
It is.
When you think about it. And none of us like that. None of us like to be forced into anything,
No.
right? I mean, we're Americans. We
Yeah.
do what we want to do when we want to do it, right?
Yes.
But the reality of it is a forced savings program, because the negative ramifications of not paying your payment are
They're not good. No.
They are not good.
Yeah.
So, that forced savings program, it's a great way to build net worth and ultimately set your family up for long-term financial success.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, very, 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 very much so. And I remember having a conversation with Alan Alder like, hey, the big family, it's kind of like a savings account for me, because at some point, when the kids move out of the house, then I'm going to reduce it, and then I'm going to have a lot of that. That's going to be cash flow for me.
Yeah,
that's going to be cash flow. It's like that's one way to look at it, but but
whatever drives you,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, home ownership helps you improve your credit. Those constant payments, your credit history is going to be better. If you make your payments on time, you know what? That's going to ultimately lower your rates. And we've talked about that. For other insurances your credit score counts.
Yes. All right. If you got questions about this, make sure you reach out to Mark. Mark, your contact information.
Sure. Website's lakes-realtors.com. Phone number's 574-834-1233. You can always check us out on YouTube.
Yep. And the big white building in North Webster.
You got it.
Stop on by. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.